The most important is to think at the moment, how can I pivot my business model for the short term?
We need to use innovation and technology to make the world a better place, a cleaner place. Why not use some of our reach, some of our time to try to help the other? A very interesting guy called Rodrigo, which I met in Harvard while I was doing the OPM there.
Welcome to my new video series called Leaders for Good, and the name says it all. In each episode, I have a video conference with one super inspiring leader, talking to him about how he's dealing with the situation, and more so, how he's helping others in this terrible time. My first guest is ex-Formula E champion, Lucas Di Grassi from Brazil. We had a great talk, and there's going to be many more episodes, so stay tuned for those, and enjoy the first one. Hi, Lucas. Thanks so much for joining Leaders for Good, and you're really a big inspiration with everything that you're doing, so I thought it would be extremely fitting to ask you if you joined for a quick conversation. Where are you at the moment?
Thanks, Nico. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm in Brazil. I brought the family from Monaco here, directly from the race in Marrakesh because of what is happening in the world. Yeah. And what about you? Where are you?
We're in Ibiza. So Vivian said, hey, let's go to Ibiza because this thing is going to go pretty bad. She was like pretty sure early on. And since we have a house here with a garden, it was the best place for us to be. And she turned out to be right because same for you, I guess. Huh? I'm sure you have a garden as well there.
Yes. I'm in the farm. So it's pretty good. Better than staying in the apartment. We are fortunate that we can have this choice, which is not the same for everyone.
We are very, very lucky because here in Spain it's complete lockdown. So literally, I'm not allowed to go out of my gate, and other people, of course, are not allowed to go out from their apartment. And so we're privileged, just as you are on your farm. But everybody else in Spain and so many people around the world are stuck in their apartment. And you have a 1-year-old child as well. I have 2-year-old, 4-year-old, so I have double trouble.
Yes,
and we can both imagine. I think having kids in an apartment for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's so tough.
That's right. I cannot imagine myself with my 1.5-year-old in a small tight apartment. And what is interesting is that we are talking about Spain and Germany and developed countries, but in Brazil also, some people, they have 3, 4, 5 kids, and they live in a 20 square meter small house. And we are also in lockdown. And I really cannot imagine the level of stress of these families, that they cannot go out. They have limited resources, what they can eat, what they can do. They live in a tight environment. It is pretty bad down here, as you can imagine.
How do you think things are going to progress? Because we're all seeing in the media there's this big debate between the president and everything. What do you expect for Brazil? Is it really a big disaster in the making for all the people who are having very low income, or what do you think?
Yes, we have 2 disasters. I think the first one at the short term is that these communities, the favelas, the slums in Brazil, they are tightly packed. Half of them, they don't have running water, so they cannot even wash their hands with soap and water. And the average family in the slums, they cannot stay more than few days in lockdown because they don't have reserves, financial or food, to stay in lockdown. So this is number one. If the coronavirus gets to those communities, it's going to be a massive spread, which so far has been contained quite well, I have to say. And second, the recession. Brazil, as you know, is a developing country. A lot of friends of mine that they have companies, they are struggling so much at this stage because the revenues have gone down something like 80%, 90%. Because of Brazilian laws, you cannot fire people, so they are trying to make adjustments, but it is very, very tough. How do you do a lockdown, but people cannot stay at home? But if you release them, the healthcare system cannot take it. It is tricky. There is no answer. There is a massive debate. Our president wants to make almost like a vertical quarantine, so protect only the most people with most disabilities or in care. but it is not clear what's the best solution.
You've done two great initiatives. One particularly for those poor communities where there's a lot of older people, I think, and then you also I've read that you're also involved with a friend creating 3D printing of face protection glass or plastic face protection masks for now and for the future. Can you take us through those two initiatives? Because obviously that's huge help.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm doing pretty much three fronts on trying to help Brazil with this crisis. The first one is I try to raise money, but because the money I can raise, it's kind of limited. We try to focus on the communities that will have the worst impact for coronavirus, which is old people in public places. So we raised 150,000 reais, which is 150 minimum salaries here, which is it's not enough to buy ventilators and stuff, but it's enough to buy some basic hygienes and protection. So with this money, I asked my friend, which normally on a day-to-day business, he prints tailor-made insoles for shoes, but because the revenues have gone down for they pretty much all the 3D printers are empty. I called him. We found an open source file for protection masks, for face shields. That's the technical term, face shields. And I asked him to take this open source file. Fortunately, the plastic, the polymer, was exactly the same needed for the mask. So he had some reserve, and he's now putting the 110 printers to print the face masks on a non-stop basis. So we can produce about 1,000 a day. And I'm using part of the money I raised to finance these masks. Some other people have asked also for him to print. So he's generating some income. And at the same time, we are giving away for people to go to supermarkets, or for the workers in these public asylums, these public places, to work protected, so they don't contaminate the old people they have to take care of. So these are the two fronts: they raise the money and the 3D masks. And now
I can interrupt you after the two. If I can just interrupt you quickly there. What's so cool about this is that, and I think for all business people around the world, even for tiny businesses, the most important is to think at the moment, how can I pivot my business model for the short term to try and keep some kind of revenue going until things get better.
And help the society. Some F1 teams, they did that, right? I think even a Mercedes, they did. They turned part of their factory to produce the ventilators.
Yeah, but in their case, they're also covering the costs, which of course for small businesses is not possible. So small businesses, in the way that you also helped your friend, because I think, as you were saying, there's going to be other people buying the masks as well from him. And so that's really creating he's pivoted his business model now and being able to make an income by creating these 3D printed shields. And so I think that's such an inspirational story, how you've managed to inspire him to do so, and suggest it to him. I think that's awesome. And then at the same time, of course, with the mask, saving lives. So that's like a perfect double whammy there.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the minimum we can do. I mean, I am on holidays. Racing has been stopped. So why not use some of our reach, some of our time to try to help the other? And for me, especially like we described here in Brazil, is very difficult. And the third, and I would like to talk to you about the third project that I'm involved, which is a bit more high tech, and I know that you like that. So on the last 2 weeks, I did some research, and there are many ways of killing viruses and bacteria, but one way is using ultraviolet light. A very fine spectrum of ultraviolet light kills virus and bacteria. It's a high energy band of the ultraviolet light. It's already been used in hospitals, in some airline companies to sanitize the airplanes, and China has just started using in the public transportation unit. So basically, you come with a super powerful ultraviolet C light, you switch it on, and it kills everything. It kills even human cells. That's why skin cancer is caused by ultraviolet lights when you're in the sun, because this light breaks down DNA. It's quite well known. It's not a new technology, but has never been used in um, um, public transportation. So what I'm doing personally this week, I bought all the materials, and we are doing a pilot, almost like a supermarket cart with a lot of lights, that we're gonna test in the subway of Brazil to decontaminate the public transportation in a much faster way, in a process that will take 30, 40, 50 minutes to do it manually with alcohol or a bleach. We're gonna be able to do it in 5 to 7 minutes. Yeah, this is the third point that I'm trying to help. I'm doing myself with my people here, this pilot, this prototype of this light version of this light tower, and we're gonna test it next week.
And you know that in China they're doing that already?
They are. If you Google, it's kind of, there is a lot of videos and photos. They are doing it in public buses and some other forms of places that are, you have a lot of people, but while you are applying this, there cannot be any people. So
yeah, of course,
bathrooms and buses and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we look forward to hearing how it goes for you guys in Brazil. Huh? I mean, that would be huge. That would be massive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just trying to lower the cost and improve the decontamination process a little bit, and see if it can help anyhow to unload the stress on the public transportation services.
Yeah, wow. If it's okay, I'll use the moment to switch to a little bit something a bit more lighter, a lighter topic, which is your racing. You being, of course, a recent Formula E champ. I mean, from 2-3 years ago. How are you now dealing with your training? How are you like freestyling your training, because there's no driving, and I suppose you don't have a go-kart track in your garden. How are you keeping the?
I was thinking about. I was thinking about making a dirt go-kart track here in the backyard. No, that's actually, I think for many athletes, that's unknown territory. I was thinking about the Olympic athletes. Imagine that everybody training and preparing themselves for the Olympics, and now the Olympics has been postponed, and I guess better than a lot of people, how you need to prepare for that specific moment, for that specific year. So for the Olympic athletes, it's even worse than us. For me, at the moment, I use the simulator that I have at home to play a little bit, because I don't believe you can improve as a driver using the home simulator. Maybe a pro, like the simulators we have at the factories, but we don't have access to that. But at the moment, I'm doing fitness more than ever. So I train like twice a day. Once just to try to be fit, and second just to try to be away of my 2-year-old, which is to give me a little bit more peace. But yeah, training, running. I have because it's a farm, I have a lot of space, so I run around here the free space. So it's for me, like I said, quite privileged to do that. Doing some weights, and that's it. Try to stay health mentally and physically, but also having meetings with the team every week. So trying to discuss which priority points we can improve while everybody's in lockdown, which data we can analyze more with more time, which decisions we need to make when the races resume, if they resume. But that's it.
But nothing specific for racing, like for your reaction time, some program or something for reaction speeds, because reacting fast in our brains is like essential to be a quick racing driver. Anything there, or?
No, I don't have it here. Anything I can do to that? I think if you try to practice other sports with balance, also helps a little bit. So I'm trying to simulate a little bit with that yoga huge ball, the driving position and the balance, trying to stay with the senses of balance and G-force up to date. But I think it's limited. I wish I had a Batak, or I wish I had some kind of reflex machine. You can have some in the computer. You can actually find some good software online, but it's not the same.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have this medical device that they had in hospitals to test people after having a car accident, to test how their cognitive reactions are coming back. And I used to have one of those at home, and I had the global record on it eventually because I was doing so much, and it's combining all the senses. So I had sound, touch, I had sight, well, almost all senses, you know, and it was a reaction device where I had even pedals, hands, everything was you know, with speed, huh?
That's interesting.
Colors,
I'm gonna look. Do you remember the name?
Yes, but I'm not going to give it away on global
The
audio.
secret.
All the F1 drivers can just go out and order it. But offline, I can call.
Okay, I will send a message.
I'll give you the name. No, and then moving on, we have so many similarities, to be honest, because we're both like now on parallel to the racing career, which I don't have anymore, but you still were sustainability entrepreneurs, both of us, in many ways, doing a lot for the environment. And even to the extent that we both have created an event for the environment. Mine is called Green Tech Festival Berlin. Yours is called Zero Summit in Brazil, and it's the same purpose. It's really, yours is the conference to bring together people with technologies, ideas for carbon-free future. And my conference in my festival is exactly the same. So just quick thought there. How on earth are you going to deal with this situation with that conference? I can tell you how we are afterwards, but isn't that a huge challenge? I mean, you have to move to cancel, or what are you doing?
Well, first, I think you are really an inspiration for me because you've been successful. We raced together actually many years because we have more or less the same age, and your life after racing professionally it's kind of also my plan. So we share these similarities. I'm following very closely your steps, and the Zero Summit, which I created last year in October, was inspired in a way by the clean tech that it's called Clean Tech Conference, Green Tech Conference, that I saw in the Berlin race,
okay,
which you did it last year. So it was I really think that there are technologies, especially in developing countries. So Zero Summit is slightly different than Green Tech because we are looking into developing countries and looking at technologies that are very cost effective to some kind of marketplaces, but largely inspired by the conference, in the sense that we all believe that we need a future which needs to be much more sustainable, in the fact that without losing creation of value, without losing quality of life, we need to use innovation and technology to make the world a better place, a cleaner place, and control global warming. So technologies like electric cars, technologies like photovoltaic cells for energy production, technologies like more sustainable farming, more interesting ways of producing protein, meat. So all these technologies, I wish to bring these companies to Brazil, and to bring the external investors also to see the startups that are happening in Brazil and connect them in a way that has never been done before in South America with Zero Summit. Actually, in the world, if you really look for something specific like this, there are very few conferences with the same purpose as the Green Tech or Zero Summit. There is one in LA, but not so many.
Yeah, that was the purpose why I created it, because I saw an opportunity. I went to the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. 60% was Green Tech, but there was no purpose-built event for that. So I said, let's do it in Berlin. That was also the reason. And
how are you doing with it?
So we're moving it to autumn.
Okay.
So we've done a plan B and we move it to autumn, and we're full speed ahead with that. And then we see how it goes. Of course.
Yes, our original date, we are keeping it. We hope the world it's safe and working by then. Otherwise, it will be a zombie apocalypse, collapse. So the original date is 6th to 8th of October. We did a partnership with an already existing huge event in Brazil, the biggest tech conference in Brazil, called Welcome Tomorrow. Last year, they had about 25,000 people in that conference, and we did like a joint venture. So all the sustainable technology side of this event now will be headed by Zero Summit. So Zero Summit will be inside there. We have a very interesting guest already confirmed, like the Minister of Environment of Brazil is coming. about another 6 or 7 companies already confirmed presence, but now everybody's it's waiting to see how this the lockdown and the pandemic develops. But I think by October, I hope positively by October we can make it work.
Yeah, the problem is even if the virus starts to slow, there might still be things like not more than 500 people in one place and social distancing. That's impossible to predict. So that we just need to, I guess, be flexible. Huh? But you said one thing, and I think our purposes of the event actually are not so different, because you said you're more focused on developing countries, but that also is our focus, because that's where, amongst other places, you can have the biggest impact for our planet. It's in developing countries. And so for us as well, a big part of it is finding and supporting technological innovation, which is possible to scale in developing countries, and it needs to be affordable therefore. So it's a big part of what we do as well. So we have we have solar solutions. We even have this year there's a speaker. He's created the plastic bank, and he has given plastic a value. So people in Indonesia, they bring plastic that they find on the beach. They bring to the plastic banks that are everywhere in cities and even in beach villages, and in return they can get products or food or whatever. So it's really giving plastic a value, and it's sponsored by big companies like Henkel, who give money and products. And so it's an amazing system. Huh? It encourages people on the beach who have no money to collect plastic, to bring it to the plastic bank and get food and whatever else in return. So it's really some really amazing projects.
Very interesting. That's really cool.
How is your Harvard studying going?
Yes, actually, the Zero Summit was created there. I have a co-founder, a very interesting guy called Rodrigo, which I met in Harvard while I was doing the OPM there. And we were talking about his business is energy trading and energy production generation with photovoltaic cells. And we're talking about how the technologies, electric cars, photovoltaic cells, and others like we know, are going to change the industry. And then Zero Summit came, the idea came in Harvard. Actually, I looked for the different names, and zerosummit.com was available on the internet. I bought it, and then we started the company. So the company is owned by both of us. And to be honest, I met... I have a formal education. I started the university in economics, but I didn't finish it, of course. I had to drop it to go to Europe and try to become a racing driver by that time. So for me, it was very, very interesting to go back to study, to go back to reading a lot of different articles. It is quite condensed, this OPM. I really recommend for you. It's 3 weeks. It's very, very interesting networking. So people from India, from China, from US, from Mexico, 42 nationalities, all CEOs or owners of companies. So you have different perspectives. You discuss in the class in a very, very high level. And for me, it was very useful. The duration of the program are 3 years. And I did the first one. Second one is September. So we don't know if it's going to happen or if it's going to happen online. And it was definitely a good move.
So 3 times 3 weeks.
3 times 3 weeks, yes.
Okay. Because when I read it, it was like 3-year study program. I was like, no way am I ever doing that.
You do the follow up online every month, but then it's kind of easy to do. You can do it, in my case, on season. And because for us it's September, it's perfect because Formula E finishes end of July, August, September we have holidays, and then October we go back testing. So it was a very good way of using that time.
Okay, cool. I'm thinking about changing a lot of things myself for next year because many things I'm doing are not really on my purpose line. I'm feeling. So maybe a study course in Harvard is on the cards for me as well the next year. It sounds like a really nice idea. So let's see.
Good.
I don't know if you can hear, but there's my family going crazy.
I think it's time the piece has ended.
Yeah, it's time to move on. Okay, thanks a lot. Say hi to the family then, and see you maybe one day. There's a race at some point, or Berlin. We'll see. Huh?
Or at the Green Tech Festival.
Or Green Tech with pleasure. Yes. Okay.
Thanks, Nico.
Bye bye.
Take care. Thanks, guys. Thank you.